All right, back to our earlier story then. Concerns are mounting over the potential total collapse of the national grid. Eskom today says due to some recovery in the generation capacity over the past 24 hours, stage 4 load shedding will continue until further notice. On this, we are now joined via Zoom by Professor Sampson Mamphweli. He's the head of the Department of Science and Innovation's Energy Secretariat at SANEDI. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Good afternoon to you, Flo, and the viewers.
Yeah, there have been many concerns in relation to Eskom and what is being seen as what might be a potential total collapse of the national grid. Those sort of concerns, are they, to you, exaggerations or actually quite a possibility?
They are not exaggerations. We're sitting in a dire state as things stand. We're approaching winter. I've been looking at the system status and the projections lately. If nothing drastic happens, we're moving, because of the winter that we will be moving into, we most likely going to have to move to stage 6 load shedding at West, and at most it could be stage 8 load shedding with a possibility of a total collapse of the grid. So those are not exaggerations. That's the reality that we're facing at the moment, and it's because the demand is going to rise, and it has started rising sharply. And the breakdowns continue with mainly the 6 problematic power stations at Eskom.
We're hearing from, the JSC and other listed corporates, that they would have to start working on contingency plans in case, for worst case scenario. And it seems you're also indicating that we should be prepared for this worst case scenario. And I mean, I think for corporations, for corporates, that might be an easy thing to think about. It might be easy to, have those funds to plan for something that might happen. But for the ordinary South African, I mean, how do we plan for such?
So the immediate kind of a solution for ordinary South Africans is to install what we call small-scale embedded generation, which is basically you are relying on solar panels with battery storage. And I welcome the announcement by the Minister of Finance that there will be some kind of rebate program that will be brought in by government. Government needs to move in very quickly to bring in that rebate program so that people can be able to afford solar panels. In terms of cooking, ordinary people can switch to gas, and also water heating, ordinary people can switch to gas as well. That will also assist in terms of lowering the demand from the national utility grid. You will recall that small-scale embedded generation has always been part of the president's plan. It has not taken off as quickly as we would have liked. That's why there is now the intervention of bringing in things such as subsidy into the picture.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk around the electricity minister, recently appointed electricity minister. What have been your thoughts? I mean, no doubt he has the qualifications, and some people are putting into question whether he is qualified. But I think the biggest question that people might want to know is his capability, and if we're talking about worst case scenario, even with all the qualifications in the world, can you really tackle this? Is there a capability on his side?
So the problem itself is quite complex. And before I go into the capabilities of the individual, I would like to reflect 1 second on what is on the ground, because the minister is not coming in an empty kind of space. So we've got a lot of work that has been done by the Energy Crisis Committee. They've got about 8 work streams. I was part of the work streams, which was work stream 7, which I've handed over to the CSIR now. And with the work that has been done by the various groups, there is light at the end of the tunnel. When some of those things start to be implemented under the president's plan, which we are expecting in the next 3 to 4 months, things will kind of ease out. Coming back to the Minister of Electricity himself, I mean, anybody can sit in that position and succeed or fail. And the success or failure of the individual is dependent on how the person approaches the problem. I see the Minister of Electricity as an individual who needs to coordinate the various activities that are already in place, as opposed to starting new initiatives in terms of tackling the problem and working with other people. The Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy is quite key in terms of bringing in new generation capacity. The Minister of Public Enterprises has worked with Eskom in terms of doing root cause analysis of the existing power stations and starting with some plans. There are very few things that need to be done in terms of firming up the plans that have been put in place by Minister Pravin Gordhan and the Eskom board, working with the various teams under the Energy Crisis Committee. So for me, it's not more about the individual, it's more about how that individual interfaces and work with the various stakeholders that are already in place, in terms of working with the Eskom board, Eskom engineers, bringing in additional capacity from the National System of Innovation, which is in universities and science councils under the disaster that has been declared by the president as things stand.
All right, Prof, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for weighing in for us here on SABC News, sir.
Thank you.